Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm calling the Madison School Board to order. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These chilies different. I like them.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
Here.
Mrs. Cotterman.
Here.
Mr. Mosier.
Here.
Miss Amy Walker. Absent. Mr. Wickton.
Here. Mrs. Walker is at a conference. We need a motion to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Wickton.
4. We need a motion to approve our previous board meeting minutes for June 28th and July 12th.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Wickton.
4. At this time, we recognize any visitors who would like to address the board in relation to any of the agenda items. Okay, seeing no one. Committee reports. Legislative Committee, we don't have a report with Amy not here. Athletic Board of Control, we meet tomorrow, so we'll have something for our next meeting. Student representative comments, we don't have, I see, so we will also skip facilities as Steve will be presenting tonight. Board policy.
No report.
No report. Student achievement.
Not much, since everybody's out for the summer, but I do have from the Career Center. The Madison Career Center hosted our 2022-2023 graduation ceremony for 110 graduates who completed at various times throughout the year. Over 600 people attended the event. Over 70 students out of 110 graduates participated. 32 graduates were recognized for also earning an adult high school diploma through the Ohio Department of Education. And recently, 30 out of 35 students passed certification exams, 86% combined passage rate, from the following programs: Advanced Cosmetology, Customer and Office Support Technology, Medical Assisting Technologies, Phlebotomy and EKG, State-Tested Nurses Aid, Welding Technology, and Customer and Office Support Technology. And that's it.
Okay. Superintendent's update.
I will be brief also, but it has been a busy summer. It's hard to believe how quickly the summer has gone past. Busy summer of staffing, which you'll hear a little bit more about as far as our administrative team this evening, planning for the upcoming school year. We are actually less than a month from the first day of school, which would be August 17th. And a lot of fiscal planning in collaboration with Mr. Stevens, planning for the levy, looking at budgeting decisions. If the levy does pass, the same if it does not pass. So it's just been a very busy summer. It's going by quickly, and we are very much looking forward to next school year.
Okay, thank you. We have presentations. Mr. Yost.
This will be brief too.
You have to go clean buses, right?
Yes. Hello, all. It's hard to believe that in less than a month, just like Mr. Peterson said, we'll be back in the 23-24 school year. We at the bus garage have been working hard to get the buses ready for the new school year. They've been inspected by the Highway Patrol, thoroughly cleaned and disinfected, and are in great condition. Parents of students have been putting transportation requests in final forms, and I've been working to route them on the buses. My secretary, Sharon Markley, will be back next week, and I hope to have all those done by the end of the month. At that point, we will send out postcards for all the students to parents to let them know what their bus assignments will be. I also plan on sending a text blast let them know, hey, start looking for the cards. This school year, as in past, we will not be starting the school year transporting open enrollment students. If they're open enroll, we want to wait about a month just to make sure we got room for our kids before we start adding them. And that's what we've done in the past, and that's what we'll continue to do this year. We'll get counts the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so of school, see where we stand. I will ask those parents to give us a call about middle of September and let us know, if they need transportation, and we can see what we can do. This year, we will be running 18 regular ed buses and 2 special ed buses. Our routes last year ran approximately 825 miles cumulative, all the buses together, 825 miles a day for about 253 miles in the year. Field trips, last year we traveled about 28,000 miles, taking students to educational trips, athletic trips, and career tech trips where they work on stuff at different places in Madison. Something else I thought I'd throw in here, I saw a webinar about electric buses, so I think people are probably going to start kind of questioning that, and I just wanted to kind of give you an update. I checked with both our vendors who we purchased from, and they both kind of said the same thing. Don't think it's really ready, because they'll make it about 120 miles, and it's hard to get to Columbus and back. If you take on a field trip, you'll be stuck somewhere on 71. So, and they're like about 300,000. So they're thinking of 3 to 5 years. It might be more, but they're about 400,000 hours. So 385,000. So they're quite a bit more than the regular buses we're purchasing now. So I just thought I'd let you know, so in case somebody asks, you can kind of have a little bit of information. All right, that's all I have. Any questions?
If parents don't do the final forms, what happens? Does the kid not ride different way, or
they'll usually show up at the stop and we'll pick them up, but we really want to know who the ridership is, who is actually needs to ride. So the last 5 years we need to have them fill out something to let us know who's riding, who's not. So we keep an accurate count. So, but yeah, if they're in we take them, and I'll usually get a whole bunch of calls about 3 o'clock from the middle school. Hey, what bus does this child ride on? And we're just scrambling to put them on. But we really want the parents started July 1st to have that stuff in there, so I can get that set up. So, all right.
Okay.
If I could just follow up with one of Mr. Yost was talking about transporting open enrollment students. I just want to clarify, the parents have to get the student to one of our bus stops. We don't leave the district to transport students. So
right.
Maybe you assumed that, but I wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chris?
Good evening. I have a brief PowerPoint that I prepared. Before I started, I just wanted to do a little brief overview. You all know my name is Steve Christ. I've been with the district now, I'm on my 16th year. I'm the operations supervisor for the district, and that kind of hits on everything from making sure that the parking lots are cleared of snow and ice in the winter time to major capital improvements and managing those and planning those to, as part of the team that built this building. Every year we have projects going on. This year we probably had 3 to 4 times the projects that we normally do. And my PowerPoint will touch on a lot of those. One thing that I wanted to point out was that the reason that we were able to do so much this year is because we had a lot of help with ESSER funds and with safety grants. Altogether, this year, my projects, I was helped out as much as $975,000. So just under $1 million was done with ESSER funds and safety grants. To give you an idea, that's over double what I would normally have for capital improvements. So we were able to do a lot of stuff. Moving forward, though, those funds are gone now. So, the average age of our buildings is about 60 years old. So it's really important that we get the levy passed because it's something that we desperately need. So with that, we'll go ahead and look at the PowerPoint. To review, this year we have a automated work order system, and we logged 517 work orders. The 3 maintenance guys that we have help take care of 7 different sites, comprised of 6 different school buildings, 11 support buildings, and 163 acres of land in the district. Started out with the high school. Just a little bit of information about each building there. It was constructed in '62 and also in 1975, a major addition. It's 225,000 square feet, and there's 59 acres of property with the high school. This year we just completed the air conditioning project in the cafeteria and 9 of the classrooms in what we call the 150 hall or D hall. And those are rooms that when they built onto the building, it eliminated all their windows, so they had no way of getting any kind of fresh air into those spaces, so that's why we targeted those for air conditioning. We also replaced the front entry doors so that we could have more substantial lockdown and access control ability with those doors. We rekeyed the entire building and put it on one master key, which we thought was very important, and it really helped streamline instead of principals carrying around half a dozen keys. Now with one key, they can get into any space in an emergency or for any other reason. We also took the cafeteria and made it lockdown capable. So before it was just an open space, and there would be, sometimes over 100 students in that space, and during a lockdown drill, they'd have to leave that space and go to the gym or to other spaces and sometimes even separate. So now, the high school has a panic button that's at the reception desk and also at the office. If that gets hit, it will automatically close those doors in the cafeteria, and they're already locked. So they'll be much safer, and it's much easier to control that space. And then we replaced the wall of windows that was along the cafeteria for 2 reasons. One is because it was getting very old. It started having a lot of problems with it. Wasn't very functional. But primary reason also is because it was made from 1/8 inch plate glass, single pane, and 1/8 inch plexiglass. No thermability at all, no R factor whatsoever, and we replaced that with some up-to-date, really nice windows, and I'll have a picture of that in a second. This year, what's going on now is we're in the middle of a roof restoration for all over the band and music rooms, and then we also are tuck pointing the entire building, which deals with fixing faulty masonry joints in the brick building. Here's some slides of what we've done there. This is the way the cafeteria wall was before we started. And you can see the colored plexiglass. It's just a thin 1/8 inch aluminum frame that goes up there, storefront type, and just single pane windows. And then this is during the process. One thing that we did do is we installed a 7-foot wide rolling steel door so we can have access to that courtyard area. We had a lot of work that we wanted to do. We could never get equipment in there, so everything had to go by hand. Because of that, the price shot way up because it was very labor intensive. And you can see the guys working there. They did a section at a time, and they're just finishing up this week. And then here it is completed. And you can see now that's what it looks like from the outside. Those are 1 inch thick windows now instead of 1/8 inch thick. They're actually 2 different panes with a thermal break with what they call low E glass. And then the whole frame system is foam-filled aluminum with thermal break also to keep the cold air out and hot air out and help us to heat and cool that space more efficiently. The tuck pointing project that we talked about, just to give, I don't know how familiar you are with the process, but that picture on the bottom is basically what we started with all around the building. And those are what they call vertical and bed joints, where the mortar is falling out or has already fell out. And then they had a crew of 4 people that's been there for over a week now, Adena Corporation, and they've come through and ground all those joints, got all the loose mortar out, and then refilled it and tried to match the mortar as close as possible. And they're probably about 80% done now with that.
What would happen if we didn't do that tuck
Right.
pointing?
So there were some parts back around the back of the building that got bad enough to where the wall started to deflect because water gets in and freezes, and then it'll start pushing the bricks out. So there's parts of the building that we found in the back where it actually started to bow slightly. If that was left alone, the wall would fail. So you'd end up losing chunks of wall, or it would just bow and fall over. So, it's a huge building. Like I say, the primary core of the building was built well, it's older than me, so it's like 61 years ago. And this, I think, is the second time it's been tuck pointed.
What does it cost to do a project like that?
Well, we caught it soon enough to where right now we're trying to hold the budget down on it, but the initial cost was $23,000.
Oh, that's a lot less than I thought it might be.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's, what we agreed to was we were going to start out with that, and if they found more, something more severe, some of the work is way up high on the gym walls, and that might get a little bit more extensive, but we'll revisit that with the second phase of the project if we need to. The middle school, not a whole lot going on here. This year we did do some asphalt work with sealing and restriping some of the parking lots, and we replaced some of the HVAC control systems. Those were never great, and they started failing on us, so we're doing that over the next 3 years. Luckily, this building has a maintenance fund that was passed when the building bond was passed, so there's funds available to do that work and to take care of the building, and that's what we try to keep ahead of everything before we have problems with it. This year, the only major thing we're doing is we're resealing one more part of the parking lot, and there's some concrete that's starting to fail where the kids get dropped off, and we're going to replace a decent-sized section of that concrete. It's hard to believe that this building is 9 years old now. We've been in here for 9 years.
Yeah.
Madison South, again, it was constructed in 1965. That was the big boom for buildings in this district. 89,000 square feet. It was actually built as a 4 through 9 middle school. Now it's K through 4 elementary school with preschool. It sits on 40 acres of land. It has, the major projects we did this year is we replaced both playground sets. That was done with ESSER funds. And we had air conditioning, as we did to all the buildings, to all the classrooms. We did a roof restoration where we did about 50% of the roof, and that roof is totally done and should be in warranty now for at least 7 years before the first sections come out of warranty. In addition to the new playground equipment, we went through, there was a set of, I want to say 4 or 6 basketball hoops in the rear playground that had been in disrepair and were falling over, and we had those all removed. The principal had to shorten some of them so the smaller kids could play on them, and then we had them all reset in concrete and repainted all the equipment in the playground. This year coming up, we plan on painting the exterior of the building. A lot of the exterior doors are in desperate need of paint, so we're going to get that taken care of this year. We also installed fencing through the safety grant so that the entire playground is fenced in now. So it's gated, but the gates are locked so that, you know, it keeps the kids in and keeps anybody else out. Here's a picture of one of the new playground sets, and they utilize rubber mulch now, so that is much more impact safe, and that's a picture of the fence. It was quite a bit of fence to go around there. I believe it was like $23,000 or $24,000 worth of fencing to go around there, but it spans a lot. They did a great job. Eastview Elementary School, again constructed in 1965, 18 acres of land. Some of the big projects we did this year was they ended up taking a room that was the coach's office, and we had to do a lot of electrical equipment to help with air conditioning there, so it kind of pushed her out of that space. So we remodeled one of the old locker rooms and made that her office. The other locker room is now the sick room. We installed the air conditioning we talked about. We've been working on for over a year now. It's all done. We had to do a lot of, like I say, electrical upgrades. A new transformer was set in the building. We did some landscaping work out front. This year, we're painting the playground equipment, and we're painting the gym, which hasn't been painted since the building was built in 1965. So that'll make a huge difference for that gym and really brighten up that space. Mifflin is kind of a unique building because it has sections of it that were built in the late 40s, some in the early 60s, and then one of the newest sections of the district other than this building in 1980. It sits on 10 acres of land, and this year we moved all the kindergarten classrooms from the annex into the main building because to provide a more safe and secure environment for them so they weren't isolated from, the small children weren't isolated from the main building. We had air conditioning as we did the other elementary schools. We repaired a large water leak in the basement, and we tuck pointed about 25% of that building. Just various areas that needed it done. This year, the major thing that we did out there was we built a road so that cars who are waiting to pick up their children don't sit on Reed Road anymore. There was usually anywhere from 25 to 35 vehicles sitting there, stretching back, gosh, probably a quarter of a mile. And the issue was when somebody wasn't waiting for the children, they wanted to get around those cars, they would just go left to center and flat-foot it through a school zone and do 50 miles an hour, and there was a couple wrecks, and it was a huge problem. So luckily, the superintendent worked with the Mifflin Township and with the county commissioners, and the county actually gave us a plot of land, and the township helped us clear the land and cut the base of the road in and do some of the gravel work. And then it's about 90% done. It has the last coat of asphalt has to go on, it has to be striped, it'll be done.
Question, do we have any plans for that annex now that it's...
Right now, they're using 2 of the 3 rooms for title, I believe, is what's going in out there. So
Because of the number of students, we're going to have classrooms back out there this fall. But while we had students out of there this year, we did some security and some other upgrades in there, so we're more comfortable with students and classrooms being out there.
What classes are going in there?
The title classrooms. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So here's some pictures of the road project. It goes from the north side of the parking lot all the way up to Galaxy Drive. It's about, because we had to wind it around a little bit, as a crow flies, it would have been 360 feet, but ended up being about 390. We had to do that because there was a system of sewer manholes there because it controls the sewer for that allotment, and the county has to have access to that still. It's also where it used to be the sewer plant for that building and for the allotment before they put in community sewer. So we had to take all that into account, and that's why it winds the way it does. But there you can see them digging out the dirt. The township did that for us. We purchased the gravel, and they laid the gravel down. And then Hammond Asphalt got the contract to come through and do the rest of the fine gravel work and do the asphalt work.
And that's 2 lanes of...
Correct. Yeah, it'll be in a 2-lane
How many
road.
cars can fit on each side?
There should be, depending on how many trucks are involved, somewhere between either 38 to 42 vehicles will be able to go in there. So that should take care of anybody that we had on the road before.
Just doesn't look like it's wide enough for 2 cars when I...
It is. It's actually, we actually went a little extra wide. It's 32 feet at the ends and 24 feet going down, which is wider than Reed Road.
Okay.
Wow.
It just doesn't look like that when you're driving by.
The Lincoln Heights building, or the Madison Early Child Learning Center, it was built in 1948. It's on the smallest lot that we have, 3.2 acres. It's a small building. This year, they upgraded the camera system. We also rekeyed all the classrooms. We did automated access control for that program, but actually in a couple other buildings. It already had access control there. And completely replaced the main entrance. You can see in this picture the wooden railing going all around there. So they had 2 different wooden handicap ramps to get into the building, and then a wooden structure of steps to get into it. And it was just starting to fail and was in pretty bad shape. So we went ahead and replaced all that with concrete. This is the funds to do all this work. They end up self-supporting. So basically how it works is they are budgeted and are tasked with paying us monthly as long, and then Mr. Stevens and I go over the budget every year, actually twice a year, and we can adjust. And like if they end up over budget, then they'll pay a little bit extra next year to get back in line, or if they're under budget, they'll have a surplus and such. So the funds ultimately come from the program itself. This year we're going to do some painting on the front, repaint all the front doors. A lot of that front facade is going to get repainted and actually put to Madison colors too. And there's a picture of the concrete work. You can see now the handicap ramp is in code with the amount of rise, new concrete steps, new powder-coated railing all over the place for that. And part of the painting they're going to do is they'll paint that old pad. It's going to get sandblasted and painted. And that starts Monday. Athletics, a lot of stuff for the athletic venues this year. We went over, because of the age of our turf field, which is coming into its 10th year, we went from every 3 years to every other year to now every year they come in and service and repair. And basically we have the company that installed it comes in and does impact tests all throughout the field. They fix any seams that are loosening up. They add infield mix, or the rubber base mix, where needed, which we do that all year long too. They clean and sanitize it. They run a big magnet over it to pick up any steel or anything like that to get it ready for the upcoming seasons. The soccer field, we had a major repair. We had rodent damage. They went up and ate the wiring harness out of one of the light poles. So we had to replace all that wiring harness. While we had the crew in there in the big bucket truck, it was a huge truck, we went ahead and replaced all the bad lamps and the lights and got that all taken care of. Unfortunately, with that work, it did some damage to the field because we had a lot of weight moving around that field. So another project we have is to repair all that stuff. We also put in a new dual discus and shot put pad, and that was requested by the athletic director so that they could move through the meets faster. We put it in a location that sets a lot drier than the existing one does, so now they have plenty of places for kids to practice and for them to do their meets. One of the big things that we did too, and we're actually in the middle of doing, is repairs to the bleacher systems. We had failed our inspection with some not minor problems. So we had to come up, what we've done is we've come up with like a 3 to 4 year program to get everything in code. Actually all the failures will be fixed this year, but then we also want to go through and add handicap seating, which we really only have like 3 handicap seats. We get grandfathered in because that stadium was built before the Disabilities Act, but we have a lot of handicapped people and wheelchair-bound people that come to games, so we'd like to augment that, and the plan is to put in 14 seats. But that's a pretty major project. Ramping and all that stuff has to be done. So we're hoping to phase that in over the next few years. For now, what we did was we fixed the really bad things. One problem that we had was at the visitor side, the concrete pillars that the bleachers actually set on had failed, and they started taking in water and freezing, and they were raised up to 6 inches. So that whole structure had started to bow, and it was snapping the welds. So we had someone come in and we ended up doing 29 of them, the 29 worst ones, pulled all those out, fixed the welds and everything, poured new footers, poured them lower and deeper to get underneath the frost line, and then put everything back together, and there'll be a picture of that coming up here. For this year, what we're planning on is we have some repairs to the field house. The hot water system there needs some major repairs. We're going to continue with the repairs on the bleachers and then on the home side, and then we're going to recoat the tennis courts. So here's a picture of the work at the home side. That's all the pieces that are going to be added to that to fix it and get it within code. We're replacing the fencing that goes at the visitor side is not thick enough wire to pass, so that old fencing is being torn off and 9-gauge fencing is going back up. And then the center picture, you can see the round concrete that we poured, all those are brand new. So that's a section that we did, that whole center section there of the structure.
When do you anticipate the bleacher project to be complete?
Well, it'll be done, we're about a week away. The parts just came in, they were waiting on parts, they had to suspend the work. They came back and started working yesterday, and they're sending a full crew up starting Friday and then all next week to get it done. So by the end of next week, it'll be ready for people to use and all that. It'll be fine, ready to go. One of the other major projects we did this year, this is one of the last ones I wanted to touch on, was for lockdown devices. So we went with a product called Night Lock, and what they are, in essence, is a deadbolt that goes onto the bottom of every classroom door, every teaching space actually, in the district. So there's a picture of it, and you can see on the left there, that's what it looks like during the day. And then beside every door are the devices themselves, the red piece that you see there, and that just very quickly slides into the slot at the top and down into a hole that's been drilled out and recessed into the floor to make an additional locking point other than the locks on the doors. A total of 573 of those devices were installed in the district. Every building in the district got those at every classroom. On top of that,
The bottom of the door and the top of the door?
the bottom.
Just the bottom?
Yep. So right now, this building, you can actually, because the age it was built, a teacher can actually lock the door from inside without going outside. The other buildings, I believe the policy is they keep them locked and open, so all they have to do is close them, they're already locked.
Right.
So now what they close them, not only will they have the traditional lock on the latch and the door handle, but they'll have this extra deadbolt that'll slide down to the bottom of the door.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, some of the windows in the district most of the doors have clear windows in them. A lot of them in this building, almost all of them have been frosted heavy. We've caught it kind of during construction. We changed them out to frosted glass so you can't see in the windows. At the high school, they put vinyl on them. So what we've done is there was also, I want to say, a couple hundred of these night-lock shades. And you can see when they're up, they're just rolled up with an easy tab there. And you pull that tab, and it comes down and it blocks out the entire window. Okay, that's all I have. Are there any questions?
A lot of work, a lot of money.
A lot of help, a lot of help.
We had it, it was time to do it.
Yep, took care of it.
Yeah, many of those projects we would have never been able to do without
Right,
ESSER
right.
funds and safety grant funds. So
Yeah.
I think we've put those to use very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay. We have no donations. Motion for treasurer's report.
So moved. I'll second.
Discussion.
All right. In June, expenditures exceeded revenues by a little over 1.1 million, which is common for June. You'll notice the fiscal year-to-date increase in taxes. With the discussion of the levy, I had a discussion with one of the board members previously, that says, well, when valuation goes up, millage goes down, so you shouldn't collect more. But you always get more on new construction, and there's this thing called inside millage, which is an unvoted millage. It's 10%. The first, or 10 mills, not 10%, first 10 mills. So that's unvoted. So when valuation goes up, you do get some increase on inside millage, but that's not the voted that we're going to talk about later on under the next section. Increase in state foundation was basically due to the further implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan. The decrease in the other revenues is, there was a decrease in things like Medicaid and homestead and property rollback. So that's pretty much the revenues. Expenditures. There's about a 6% increase over the course of the year in salaries, and of that 6%, about a fourth of it was in just regular salaries. The rest of it was in things like substitutes and severance payments. 74% of the annual increase, the $2,377,000, was 74% of that was in salaries and benefits, which, 84% of our whole budget is in salaries and benefits. So that's where that increase came from. Like I said, the rest of those increases were in like substitute and certified payments, and the increase in purchase services was increase in cost of repairs, and there was a pretty significant increase in cost of things like OT, PT, the therapies. We're pretty much stuck. We have to pay what the companies around here get because we don't have a lot of selection and choice. The next 3 pages actually are pretty much the same that I've presented just about every other time, with the forecast and, general fund cash balance. Speaking of the general fund cash balance, our goal is 60 days. For the average for the year, we were at about 32. And then the last thing I just added, since it was the end of the year, I just added an annual financial report that kind of broke out where we were in the funds, general fund, special services, adult education fund, bond fund, things like that. That's it for the financial report. And the second part, I'd like to recommend that you approve contracting with Ms. Lisa Tillman-Shaw, my assistant for transitional services, transition for her replacement, to train her replacement, and to assist in some of the things that she does currently while I'm hiring. As far as hiring goes, we've already had 3 interviews. I've got 2 more for tomorrow. I anticipate having second rounds early next week and having somebody hired, ready to replace her by the end of next week. So, any questions on the board report or my recommendation or request to ask to contract with Ms. Tillman Shaw?
I see none, so
Okay.
roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mrs. Connerman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Mr. Wickton.
4. Next is matters related to personnel. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yes, we have some administrative changes and would like to recognize some of the folks that will be leaving us for their work in the district, and then also introduce some new folks that some will be coming into the district, and a couple others will just be in different positions. So I'll let Mr. Stevens start.
Okay, as I said earlier, Ms. Tillman Shaw, Lisa, she has been a dedicated employee for about 16 years, and
Stand up.
please, she's made my transition here as seamless as it could have been. I am quite nervous because I can't imagine doing my job without her. Anybody who is a decent, well, I shouldn't say, most administrators would say they're only as good as the people that support them and work for them, and she is a big reason that I've had any sort of success. So I want to thank her and thank her for her 16 years of dedicated service. She's been a very good asset. She took the treasurer's job at Bucyrus City Schools, replacing a gentleman by the name of Ryan Cook. They are very lucky to get her, and it's very sad that we're losing her, but she's moving on to bigger and better things.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time here.
And speaking of people leaving us to go to Bucyrus, Mr. Muro will be leaving us. He will be taking on the curriculum director's position at Bucyrus, and I think, as all of you know, Mr. Muro aspires to be a superintendent someday. I haven't talked him out of that yet, but I think this will be a good next step in that process of getting to that point and attaining his goal of being a superintendent someday. He has been at Madison as an administrator for 13 years, was the assistant principal at South, took over as principal at Eastview for a year, and then has been the principal here at the middle school for the last 9 years. So I just want to recognize Mr. Muro and thank him for all of his dedication and hard work to the Madison district. He's done a great job, and I think he would like to share something with the board.
Sure, I'd just like to share a piece from my resignation letter that I thought was appropriate for tonight. What it says is, originally when I came to Madison Local Schools, I was very appreciative to have been awarded the position of Madison South Elementary as assistant principal. Since that time, I've continued to be appreciative of the additional leadership opportunities that the district gave me as principal at Eastview Elementary and the middle school. It has been an honor to serve the district in those capacities, and I'm very thankful for all that I have learned and been a part of at Madison Local Schools. Having the opportunity to educate students as an educational leader while building so many relationships with so many people is truly a blessing that I'll never forget. I'm just very thankful to be here at Madison. Having the pleasure to work with as many wonderful people here in the community. There's many, as you know, great families here who take great pride in what they do here in the district. I'm very thankful to work with them. The staff here, as you know most of them, they have great hearts for what they do, and they, as many needs that our students have sometimes, they do go out of their way to do, because nothing's for us. Mr. Peterson, just really appreciate working with him for all these years. I can't imagine a better fit for a superintendent here in this district. But somebody with his background, who's lived here, worked here, been employed at, and just he cares very much for everything that goes on. Mr. Stevens, it's been a pleasure to work with him. For 26 years in education, hands down, there isn't a better treasurer I've ever worked with. So it's been a pleasure to work and learn from him as well. And then, as I leave here, I'm excited for both Bruce and Bruce Gibson, who'll be an assistant principal, moving into his role, and Mr. Nelson, George Nelson, is moving into the principal role. I've been working with them together, and I can assure you they, along with Mr. Keppel, are working very hard to make sure that the school year starts on a positive note and that they are prepared for what they have to do. So, again, very thankful for the opportunity from all of you, and wish you all a great school year this fall.
Thank you. Congratulations, and good luck.
Next, Kim Fleiderer, Ms. Fleiderer, if she would stand. Just want to recognize her. She's been here as our food service supervisor for the last 5 years, and she, as we all struggled through COVID, did a great job through that, and in her role, that provided some extra challenges, and we're still seeing the effects of that a little bit as she tries to order certain things and can't get things and has to move to plans B and C. And so she's done a great job in her 5 years here, and she's moving on to a state level position where she'll be a specialist she'll probably be working from home, but essentially she will be the person that food service supervisors reach out to get assistance when needed. So I want to wish her well and thank her for the job that she's done. And we are, as far as filling her position, we're taking applications through the end of this week, be doing interviewing next week, and I hope to have somebody named potentially by the end of next week, if at all possible, because typically that person starts right at the end of July, beginning of August, and so we need to get that person in and trained, and Kim, I'm sure, will work with that person to get them ready to go. So thank you, Kim.
Thank you, and congratulations.
And now we'll move on to those who are either coming into new roles or coming into the district. The first one is Lindy Holfinger. If you would stand. I'm going to embarrass her right out of the gate. Lindy is going to be our new MECLC director, replacing Natasha. So she's got big shoes to fill. But Lindy is actually a product of our Career Tech Early Childhood program. And so she's a graduate of Madison. She's been at Head Start for the last 20 years. So as we know, the MECLC building is where Head Start was. So she's worked in that building. And in the last 4 years at Head Start, she's been in a supervisory role that'll be very similar to this role. She interviewed very well, comes very well recommended from Head Start, and we think she'll do a great job. So welcome.
Welcome.
And then Jordan Nelson. You guys know Jordan. He's been the assistant principal here for the last 2 years, and really impressed me when he came in and interviewed for the assistant principal's job, and has done a great job in that role. And I think he will do a great job as principal. He and I talked, and he very much impressed me with the job that he's done, and I think he will continue to do a great job in providing the leadership for our middle school. So congratulations.
Good luck.
And Bruce Gibson. Bruce, if you'd stand. Bruce has been a teacher in our district for 3 years, and has coached multiple sports here, and really just has engaged himself at Madison and with the Madison community. Just a little bit of a story about how he got here. It's pretty typical to get emails from people during the summer who are looking for jobs, and what wasn't typical about him emailing me was I I'd have to go back and count, but I think I got about 14 emails from him. The guy just wouldn't give up. And so he persevered. We had a position, but we didn't have a bunch of positions, and ultimately he landed here at the middle school with a teaching job, has done a great job, and really, I think, loves and cares for the Madison district and our Madison kids, and did a great job in the interview, and comes very well recommended from Jonathan and Jordan. So I think he'll be a great addition to our administrative team. So congratulations. Welcome.
Congratulations. Good luck, too.
That is all.
That's a lot.
That was a lot.
Any other discussion on item K? Roll call, please.
Mr. Mosier.
Four.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4, with the exception of item G, I have to abstain from Jesse Walker. That's my spouse.
I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, I should have.
Mrs. Scotterman.
4.
Mr. Waketon.
4. I'm sorry, I said K. I was looking ahead, and it was J.
It's okay.
I actually do know what I'm doing some days. Superintendent's business. We need a motion to accept this.
I'll move.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
I got a little discussion, if
Oh,
I
I'm sorry.
might.
I guess I don't know what
Yeah,
I'm doing.
I'll be very brief, couple items. That item number 1, the alternate, delegate and alternate to OSBA, I've shared with some of you, but I really recommend and feel that it's appropriate that it, as far as the Capitol Conference goes this year, where that business meeting will take place, that with the cuts we are making, I don't think it would be appropriate for the district to fund our attendance at that conference. So obviously, we are all still welcome to attend, but anybody who attends would be paying our own way. So we aren't voting on a delegate and an alternate this month. That would be next month, so that gives us time to, if somebody is going to attend, we can make those plans between now and then. And then number 5, that is the resolution, the first resolution towards putting our levy on the ballot, and I think you'll notice that we've reduced the millage that we are asking for from the last time around down to 7.5 mils. As we got the information from the budget bill back and got an increase in our state funding, and looking ahead to the reappraisal, we felt like due to those two things, in anticipating those things, that we could reduce the millage. And then secondly, the big change, the other big change being that it's a 5-year renewal as opposed to a continuing levy. We had heard from, some of the voting population that was a concern, that it was a continuing levy. So in listening to them, we're going to make it a 5-year renewal so that they can weigh in on it every 5 years. And that is all.
Can I add?
Sure.
As far as the delegate goes, I was a delegate last year, and it didn't feel right going and voting for Madison without speaking to every other board member and seeing how everyone else felt to say, this is Madison's vote. So if we do send a delegate or someone does go on their own dime, I think we should have a work session to talk about what OSBA is presenting and then vote on that, how Madison's going to vote, so that delegate can go vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I didn't like it. It didn't feel right. I mean, I just did common sense
You don't want
stuff,
just to
but...
tell us what to think?
Right. No, I don't. I'd rather have it, this is Madison's vote, so
Okay.
just a
Fair enough.
recommendation.
I have no problem with
I
that.
like that.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Scotterman.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4. Now, if I get my page turned. Okay, our next meeting will be the August 16th, but we are having a special board meeting next Thursday, which will be at the board office, not here. At this time, we also have any visitors going to talk? I'm sorry, I skipped that part.
No, this is
Okay.
actually different. We need a separate motion for the resolution in a second and a
Yeah,
separate vote.
I see that now. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot your resolution needed a separate vote. Right?
That's what it reads like.
Okay, do we have a motion for that resolution?
I'll move.
Okay.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion on that item? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Connerman?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Mr. Wigton?
4. Thank you for keeping us honest. Okay, moving ahead to the executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4.
Mrs. Connerman?
4.
Mr. Wigton?
4. Okay, we are adjourned for the time being, and there will be no vote taken after we come back out.